all the information she knows just makes sense the way she explains it. Here she is!
Assalamu
Assalamualaikum!
alaikum. Walaikum salam, sis.
How
Glad
are
to be here.
you?
Doing great. How are you? I think we match.
You we? Well, I
We
got
got
like
the pink
5
going
layers of
on.
pink on right now. I have like 3 shades of pink.
Supreme matching. All shades of pink.
Right, Vitola. I'm sorry, I'm trying to stabilize my tripod again. What are you doing?
I'm good by the grace and mercy of Allah. A little nervous, but very happy to be here.
Nervous? There's nothing to be nervous about. It's just the internet.
It's just the internet.
The strangers. But thank you so much for choosing to be on this episode of MGT for Life, where I really just want to answer a bunch of questions about the Nation of Islam, specifically for the women, because I don't think there's a lot of information out there on the internet that I've seen. So, what are we gonna do? Oh yeah, so this is only gonna be about an hour. So, but pretty much what I'm gonna do is ask you a few questions, and we might delve into other things, which I'm pretty sure we will. But before
Probably.
we, yeah, likely. So before we begin, do you want to explain to everyone who you are? Introduce yourself a little bit.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Rosalind 3X. Everyone calls me Rose. I prefer Rose instead of Rosalind.
Well,
I'm from Muhammad Mosque number 7C, Brooklyn. Brooklyn. Exactly. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, mostly working with the youths, ages 12 to 25. So it's kind of a little bit of my background. And I'm Walaikum Salam, sisters. And I think that comes out a lot in like the work I do and the lives I do, like that background. And that's why I'm mentioning it here. I recited back in February and I graduated in April. I'm a newborn still. Like my mom sisters keep letting me know you're a newborn. Like
we're all newborns, babies at these teachings. Really, if we think about it, I've been in for almost every 4 years in like November, and I still have just reached the surface of this stuff. Like I didn't even know how much I didn't know until you came in right out the bat and just started dropping gems. I'm like, wow, how long have I been in this?
praise be
Am
to
I that
Allah.
young? Wow, okay. I guess I don't know how to pay attention. I don't know. But there's a time and a season for everything. We all come in and we all understand things at different times. But yeah. Thank you for that brief introduction. That was beautiful. But what was my first question? So my first question for you is, how did you first discover the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad? I don't know if you've been to a mosque, one of our mosques. I don't know if you were able to experience that before they closed. But how did you find out about the nation? If you don't mind sharing.
So I found out because I liked the tea very, very much.
The tea?
It was for the tea, and
Oh.
God, like Allah and the person of Master Fraud, Muhammad, knew better than I did. It was like, I'll give you tea if you want tea. So I always was very big into learning more about Black history. I lived in DR and a little bit of time in Haiti, so that's a little bit of the history I learned. And Haiti and DR have a very rich history. So when I came back here, I was born here in Brooklyn. I came back here when I was 18 again for college. I wanted to learn more about like Black history here in the United States, because it's not the same as in the Caribbean. And I liked hearing what Malcolm X had to say. I liked hearing what Martin Luther King Jr. had to say. And I'm sure the gossip, the slander was there. And I was like, I need to learn more because I want to know what's going on. And I felt like I kept hearing about Elijah Muhammad. I was like, who is this man? He's everywhere. And I ordered Message to the Black Man from Amazon because I didn't know any better back then. Luckily, it was the color version of the Exalted Christ instead of the black and white one. I think one or the other has some extra stuff added in there. Some
Hmm.
words removed and changed. And that's really where I got to learn more. And I remember I looked up the address for the Harlem Mosque, and within like 2 weeks, everything got shut down, so I couldn't go.
Ooh.
Yes, ma'am.
So you discover it from the internet, essentially, just
Yes, ma'am.
hearing from what other people were saying that wasn't necessarily positive, but you just being curious, and that's what led you there. Praise be to Allah. I think that's how a
Praise
lot
be
of
to
people got,
Allah.
man. Because, hey, every knock is a boost. Every time they mention something negative about the minister, Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, whoever it is, a lot of people, they're like, why does he get so much hate? I don't get it. And a lot of times that curiosity drives them to learn more, and then they end up finding themselves home. So praise be to Allah. Every knock is a boost. So thank you for sharing that. Next question. First impression of the MGT and GCC, and what was the most appealing aspect of the MGT and GCC to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Since
Um,
really you got it all through the internet, you never really experienced it in person, which is a whole nother thing. It's one thing to look at people through, cameras and stuff, but just in person, so different. But
right.
explain that to
I'm very excited to finally, inshallah, go in person at some point to the mosque. But
us.
again, I found a lot of the information about the MGT through social media, through Instagram, and you were actually one of the first people I saw, and I thought you were
Really?
great. I still think you're great.
Praise be
Um,
to Allah. Me and my craziness.
it was what I needed. Like I needed to see people that were like MGT that were relatable and
Hmm.
that were funny and felt like I could hang out with them and have conversations and not get bored. Like I needed to see that, and you definitely provided that. I think I also started. I
Praise
followed
be
Sister
to Allah.
Anissa as well during that time, and I still go to the master class in the women's circle. I'm very grateful for those groups and. Sister, I think her name is pronounced Naya Sai. I'm not sure if you pronounce the T or not.
Naya Sai.
She's on the NNB news a lot. She has like a very soft voice.
Oh, yes, this is Naya. Oh my God, I love
Yes.
her. Angel. Literally.
Yeah, those were the first MGT I was following, and I didn't feel like it didn't feel too far off that I couldn't reach that, but it was just enough to
Hmm.
empower me and motivate me to be like, ooh, like I like this color coordination, I like the style, I like the scarves. Um,
Praise be to Allah.
yeah,
Praise
that's
be
what
to Allah.
inspired me.
So seeing the sisters on the internet. Praise be to Allah. See, man, I be trying to help people get out there and just, especially specifically MGT, because we really don't know the type of impact that we have on people until they like tell us. Um, because that's really something that I've learned, because I would never expect anybody to want to listen to me at all or do anything or learn anything from me, because I'm like, I used to really think that I didn't know anything and that I was just a child. And I think a lot of that was like trauma from growing up. But like literally, we are all so important. It doesn't matter what you do. It
Yes.
don't matter what you think you don't know or know, because I used to battle with that so much, thinking I don't know enough to share. I don't know enough to explain this. But you do know enough. It's all in your head, and you just got to get out there and just make the content, because the only way people are going to know the teachings and see the teachings are through you,
Yes,
especially now that the
ma'am.
minister is not present. They're not going to listen to the minister right away sometimes. That's just actual fact, and that's where we are with the world and the internet. They will learn and love the minister and the nation through you and your example. So that's
Praise
just
be to
everything. I
Allah.
just wanted to share that. I don't know where it came from. I'm just grateful that Allah is using me as an instrument to inspire so many people.
You're a
So
household
all
name
praises
here.
be
Like
to Allah.
everyone is the sisters on. They know your voice at this
Sisters,
point.
who
Is the
at your
sisters
house?
I have two biological sisters. I live in the ghetto. I live in New York. So
That is so cool. Girl, go ghetto.
yeah,
America.
they recognize your voice. They're like, is that the sister I want to hear? She's so fun.
Praise be to Allah, man. I am just grateful. Never in a million years, but I imagine God would be using my life to do this, but wouldn't have no other way. No other way.
Let him use you, right? Like,
Yep. Praise be to Allah. So,
it's beautiful.
what was the next question? Moving on. What made you ultimately want to join? I think you briefly went over this when you answered the first question, but like, what was your ultimate reason why you felt compelled to join the nation?
Really have to think this one through.
I know
I
it's deep.
It is. I remember, and Master Fard Muhammad, he just knows when and how to do things, because I
Mm,
I really do think if I would have gone straight to the mosque and stayed like going to work and doing everything else I was doing, I might have not like followed through. But the
mm,
shutdown really helped give me more time to really listen to the lectures, to really spend some time reading the books, to pray. I did my first Ramadan actually because it was March, the beginning of the panoramic, and then and then it was Ramadan,
yes.
and like
Wow.
having the time to really live that life of a Muslim without the distractions of the world really helped me be like, this feels nice. I like this. I feel good.
How was that? Like participating in Ramadan without really, I don't know how much you do, but without really, being connected with anyone and just knowing what you're supposed to do. Because,
It
I
was
mean,
hard. It was very difficult. But I think the Master Farad, like Allah had to just, he was there 100% of the way, because I couldn't have done it alone. I couldn't have done it alone. I keep thinking about that, but I was so focused on
no.
the prayer aspect, and I was doing all
Mm,
five right on time, because I was like, if I miss this, I'm gonna drop off this whole mission.
mm,
Um, and I think it was very healing, also because in that time, in that space, the quiet, the peace, there wasn't much distractions. A lot of old pains and old wounds were coming up that
mm,
even as a therapist I hadn't dealt with, and like being in the prayer rug and being in sajda position and just having conversations with God, and feeling these emotions come up and be like, I'm crying, but I'm not crying because I'm sad. Like I'm feeling good, but I'm crying, and it was strange, but it felt like he was healing me in
mm,
that process. And it came to a point where, like I was saying, I would time the prayer times. I'd be like, in 2 hours I got prayer, so in like 1 hour I'm
mm,
gonna do my wudu. I'm gonna do all these things, because I knew I was gonna have such a good feeling at the end of prayer. And that's what sort of kept me going
mm.
until I found out about Sister Nisa and the master call. And then it was the structure of Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, we're gonna study, and just little by little implementing all of that structure
Hmm.
during this vacuum of being home, just locked in doing nothing. It really helped.
Wow. See, that's probably the emotional and maturity level. Because I don't know how much older you are from me, but you're older than me. I know. So like, even though I've been doing this for like well, Ramadan specifically, 3 years, 4 years, every year. Not this year because I didn't have any restrictions, but every year it's always so difficult. Oh my goodness, I always had a hard time. Um, not thinking about food and having to do all the prayers and putting stuff off. And so getting to hear that you were just able to do it without anyone outside telling you what exactly you were supposed to do just tells me everything that I need to know about you, really. Like it all makes sense. Like you were born for this. Like
All
this is
praise is
your
due to
home.
Allah.
And man, more people just gotta they just gotta hear more from you and they gotta know more about you. So we gotta do something. Cause like the intelligence, when I'm telling you, like you were on the calls last year with the women's circles. Yeah,
Yes,
that's where
ma'am.
I believe that's where I first got to see you.
Yes, ma'am.
But yeah, just seeing you and the way that you knew stuff, I'm like, dang, I don't even know that. And I've been in this job for like 3 years, and I'm just like, she got it. It's just able. You can see the spirit of God in people before they join, while they processing, whatever it is, and you definitely had it, and
Praise
you
be
still
to
got it,
Allah.
and it's just something that I look up to, and I just love listening to you talk. That's why I join all your little lives and everything. But I appreciate you and all that you do. So moving on. Hey, what was some questions? Did you have any challenges or difficulties joining the Nation of Islam?
Yes, ma'am. I I pray no one gets mad at me, but the amount of weight from signing, like, you see in the website, the forms, NOI.org
Mm-hmm.
slash join. I remember filling out those forms every single month at the beginning of the month, like it was a bill for, like if it was a
Really?
bill, yeah, for like, I
Oh my
think
God.
around 6 months. And I kept filling it out. I kept filling it out. And sometimes I'd hear back from them, but because I'm from the New York mosque, we had a great loss, like as a mosque at the beginning of
Mm,
the panoramic.
mm-hmm.
And I, because I wasn't in the mosque prior, I didn't understand why the delay. Like our leader wasn't like physically present anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember getting super frustrated. And I think it was actually right after Ramadan. Again, that strength and that discipline, that was not me. That was a lot because I don't know how I did it. But I remember during the summer there was a period of time where I was so frustrated. I was like, nobody answers me. I don't know what to do. This is so frustrating. And I remember at one point I was so frustrated that I just deleted everything NOI related. I was like, I'm done with all of this. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was done, and then I kept reading. I enjoy reading a lot. I read all the time. Um, and everything I read kept pointing to things about the teachings. It kept bearing witness to the teachings. I was like, fine. And even though I thought I gave up, like the actual process of enrolling in orientation, everything I read, everything I heard kept bringing me back to the teachings. And so I was like, okay, I'll listen. And that's when um, I remember filling out the form again. And this time, actually, instead of receiving like an email saying, well, we'll get back to you, the sisters from the mosque called me. I got like 3, 4 separate calls from different sisters on like the same week. And they were like, we're so excited to have you here. You're great. You're a therapist. This is wonderful. We have so much, like, even in the nation, you have a place to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just the welcome. I still remember when they called me, it was November 9th. And it was just a call, but it was so important to me. Um,
Mm.
and I needed that call at that point because I was very close to giving up. It was, if we count March, mid-March, so April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. So
Ooh.
almost 9 months, right? It was like,
That's a pregnancy. That is a
and that's
baby.
right, right. And
Wow.
yeah, and that's when I received the call. So
Woo. 9 months.
push to the limits, right? But I'm
But
glad.
that 9 months is really getting me. I feel like that's so symbolic. Like you had to go through 9 months. Well, did it have 9 months to get um to someone for someone to actually respond back to you? I'm sorry. Did you say that
Yes.
it took 9 months for someone?
Like from the mosque for them to be like, yes,
Yeah.
you're going to start processing 9 months.
Wow. I wonder why 9 months, man. I know the pandemic, but it's something with that. That
Maybe it was
is
just me. Maybe Allah
that
was
is
like, I'm gonna test you. Do you really want to join? But do
exact.
you really?
Yes, I think that's because Sister Nadia said the same thing. It took her a few months to actually get a response, and it wasn't until she started reaching out to people on social media where she got a sooner response. So people, if you are looking to join or looking to be a part of an orientation class, please reach out to someone on social media that you trust. You can reach out to me and I can find someone to connect you with, someone in your local mosque, because that's what I'm finding to be the quickest way to get people into local study groups
Awesome.
and mosques. But for the people who didn't know that, like you,
You know,
trial. I think, man, that is beautiful. That is literally a pregnancy. So
I
that's
didn't
from the
think about that.
idea. Like the idea was born, and then you had to go through all these trials, and all this stuff had to develop for the baby to be born. That's crazy. I mean,
And then,
I ain't
and
feeling
then
it.
called
What you
on the
said.
ninth of that ninth month. Like, come on now.
The ninth of that ninth month. There is no such thing as coincidence. Everything is for a reason. And if that was
So,
me, I would be sitting on that because that's crazy. Wow. Oh my goodness. So ultimately, 9 months, see symbolic to rebirth. See, something in there, something in there. Especially since you're the womb goddess. I don't know anybody who knows as much as you do. It's something about it.
all
It's something
praise is
in there.
due to Allah. It's actually giving
Um,
me the number 19 now that we're talking about it. Remember I mentioned the two wombs,
19.
9, plus the one being God.
My brain can't take it. We're gonna say that for the next part, or after I ask this question, because I do want to get into that because like
More
genius.
questions? Yes,
It's just
ma'am.
this is like the last formal question. The next are just gonna be like whatever comes to mind. But after all of that, waiting 9 months and then waiting to be a part of processing, signing up, getting your letter back, all of that, was it worth it?
Yes, ma'am. I just the healing alone that was done. It was a lot isolated. Not just me, a lot of us. But he isolated me and put me on a. It was a severe trial if I really think about it, to see if I really wanted to join. But
Mm,
as he was doing that, I also healed so much, and any wisdom that I bring about the womb, about emotions, about mental health really has to do with those 9 months where I was in. That was a severe trial. Now that I'm looking back at it,
mm.
I if whatever I know is because of those 9 months.
Baby, spiritual, baby.
That's me.
That is deep, 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 deep. Thank you so much for sharing that response. So now we're gonna get to the fun stuff. Not that that stuff was not fun, but I would like to know where did you learn? Because those who do not know, Sister Rose is very informed on you know, things about the womb. I didn't even know that there was three wombs until she explained it. Um, about the mind and about the woman and then like femininity and it's just a lot about that. But a lot of stuff she said didn't make sense really until she joined the Nation of Islam and was able to connect a lot of the dots that she had pinpointed everywhere in her brain. So can you explain to us a little bit how you learned so much or where you got all this information from or just is this something that you just love? You just love learning about
Yes,
neonatal and
ma'am.
all of that type of stuff. Can you just go into that a little bit? That's question.
Yes, ma'am. It's I in hindsight is 2020. Like, but I remember even back when I was in college, like undergrad, and I've never been. I love reading in general, so I'm always someone who liked reading. My mom didn't like reading. She didn't really like having the TV on. So if you wanted to be entertained, you had to read books. So I remember I'd choose the bigger the books. If there was trilogies, if it was a whole series, I'd love that because it would be more entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd read Harry Potter over and over and over again. I'd read,
I've never
um,
read that.
yes, ma'am. I would read Game of Thrones over and over and over again. Just even Twilight, I read it over and over and over again. So
Wow.
it sort of created this love for reading. And whenever I had to do essays for college, I hate is a strong word, but I really just like writing 5, 10 pages on something I wasn't interested in. So I'd always put a twist on my essays. Um, they're pretty funny, but the main one I'm thinking about was and I'm saying this because I just looked through some of my old paperwork and I found it. I had completely forgot. I wrote an essay about it was a women's psychology course,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote about how I think it was the Spanish Inquisition, but when they were pretty much just killing women for knowing about herbs and about pregnancies, and it was midwives. They were midwives, and men who wanted to disenfranchise women of the power of being a midwife, because there's a certain power in being a healer and having those connections within the community. And
Mm-hmm.
also they would have a little bit of land, they'd have a little bit of some money set aside. So certain men, white men from that time, would make up lies about witchcraft so that they could um, kill them and then get their property and their money, and reduce the amount of it. It was also political because it was like taking them out of the picture. And as I was writing it, I wasn't thinking about, oh, I'm so interested in the womb and motherhood. It was more like, let me talk about like the super morbid thing, and it's about women, so let me just do that. And as I was looking at essays, I think I was, over the years, I was writing a lot of essays and learning a lot about women and midwives. Um, Sometimes historically they're called witches, but realistically it was healing women. They knew about herbs, they knew how to give birth, they knew how to test for pregnancy before you even were showing, like all these things that they were able to do that now people don't do because it was, you would be called a witch and get killed. So like nobody wanted to do that. And that's how it started. And I'd say, yeah, I guess it's been a passion for the last 10 years, give or take. And it was a lot of like random things. Like I'd learn stuff to write essays, to write assignments, to learn a little bit about some condition or something. But when I started reading more about the women in the teachings, it was like that thread. Like we talk in, it was like a golden thread. It connected everything, beginning, middle, and ending. It clarified everything, and it wasn't. And I remember even in the master call, I would be the random facts queen. I just have random facts to share. And the more I learned about the teachings in general, everything was starting to make sense. Everything had a purpose, and whatever didn't have a purpose about random facts that I knew about, it was something that I could disprove or be like, this is information for later on. And then usually I'd find some information.
Genius. Oh my goodness.
Praise be to Allah.
Because I've always loved learning about babies and the mind and the uterus and all of that. It's always so fascinating to me. And so a lot of the stuff that you were sharing, again, it just blew my mind because it was the simplest thing. But the way, I don't know how or why you even explained it, and why it was so simple the way you explained it, but like, I'm just like, oh my God, that makes sense. 2 plus 2 equals 1. 2 plus 2
Right.
equals 4. Like, wow. So do you mind breaking down, what was it? I think, I don't remember. Was it no, it wasn't 19.
Was it the
Dang,
3
I don't
wombs,
remember.
mind, vocal cords, and then the physical womb?
I don't think it was the wombs. It was something, I should have wrote this down because I probably wouldn't remember it.
The grandmother, mother, daughter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the mother, the baby, like me being in my grandmother's womb,
Yes, ma'am.
and like my grandchildren being in my womb right now, even though they're not physically here. Can you explain
Yeah,
that a little bit more?
of course. I It wasn't by chance. I'm trying not to say things were by chance or a coincidence, but it's something that I learned through epigenetics. And epigenetics is the science of how genes get transmitted from one generation to the next. And like in terms of purpose and why of epigenetics, most scientists study it to see what gets inherited from just one generation to the next, like what could change genes from parent to mother. That's what mainstream epigenetics talks about. But there's only a little bit, but there's some research about how trauma, about how lived experiences can affect the kind of DNA that gets passed down from one generation to the next. And as I was learning about that, because I work in the mental health field, I started seeing that there was a lot of talk about how the women transmits DNA through 3 generations. And I was seeing it before and it didn't make any sense to me until I went to the Friday night study group. I think it was study group 18, specifically about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Mhm.
And there's a specific question there, and I think that's the question I needed to tie everything together. Remember, random facts all up in the air, just out in the ether. And it was about what does the role of women play, specifically because in the life of Prophet Muhammad, there were a lot of women involved in his work. They actually were the most reliable scholars after he passed away. And I remembered a hadith that specifically says, not specific, I'm paraphrasing. Prophet Muhammad said, this generation, like the one he was in, his generation, the one after me and the one after them would be of me. And after that, they would be oath breakers. I'm paraphrasing. That's what he was saying. They would make oaths and not follow through.
Yeah, they would not be of me, I believe. Somewhere on those lines.
Right. And when I thought about it, and also I've seen some hadith that say 300 years, but it's still the three, right? Like there's still that three number, three generations mine, the next and the next. That's three. And I was already studying about epigenetics, so I already had in my mind, women, epigenetics affect three generations. And something in that study group like clicked for me. I was like, interesting. Like I do know that, and that this was, I'm trying to like put myself back in the study group where I was like, interesting. So what I do know is that so right now, you're not married, you're not pregnant, maybe in the future, right? Inshallah.
I don't know.
Right. But right now you're supposed to have one egg. Some people have two eggs so eggs, it only happens one egg per month on average, sometimes two. That's why people have like twins, like fraternal twins. Those are two eggs that matured at the same time. But before they're eggs, you have egg follicles in your uterus. So there's this assumption that we have eggs just there. They're already matured and they just get picked whenever they get picked. But you actually have, I guess you could call it like limes on a lime tree, and they're not mature until that one time a month when one matures. And then if it doesn't get fertilized by a sperm, then you get your period, right? So it's one.
Oh.
Right.
Like
I see
in the moment type of thing?
Yes. I see the cogs turning.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And there's also an assumption that women, because like, oh, you have all your eggs when you're born and that's it. That's actually not true, because it's egg follicles. And on top of that, they're not just egg follicles. We women actually have the ability to replenish egg follicles. So it's, yeah. So there's the assumption that you have only, when you're born, I think it's 4 million egg follicles when you're born. And then over time, it's less and less. But you actually, us women have the ability to make new egg follicles and replenish them. So the same way we have skin cells and they shed every 28 days, we get a new layer of skin. It's the same way with our egg follicles, where they might, a lot of them are going to be there, right? But you could get new ones and replenish them as well. And then one every month, maybe two, will get mature and become an actual egg instead of just an egg follicle. So I'm explaining that to really like make you like understand the full thing. So then let's say you get married, inshallah, right? And you get pregnant with a beautiful daughter. Obviously, when at certain parts of the pregnancy, there won't necessarily be a womb per se, but at some point in that pregnancy, that baby girl is going to have a uterus. And in that uterus, she also has egg follicles. So in that moment, when you're pregnant with your daughter, you are one person, right? With a womb. Your daughter who's in your womb is the second person in that triad. And then the womb that she has, those egg follicles, even though they're not eggs themselves, there's enough genetic information for like what can become, or what is the possibility of that third generation to come. And in science, they call that process of like sort of being like a potentiality, something that could happen. They call it in potentia. And when I looked up what it means force and power. And we know, because of the teachings, that force and power is God, right? So I think I might have skipped over and jumped into the second part, which is that we're, like I was saying in the class, we're twice baked. We're in the oven twice. We're in the womb of our mothers when she's a fetus,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's one pregnancy. And then when her mother is born, gets married, becomes pregnant with us, that's the second womb experience, the second pregnancy that we experience. So we're in the womb twice, 9 months and 9 months. And remember I said that when we're in two wombs deep, we that third layer, that triple darkness layer, is in potentia, right? Force and power, and force and power God is one, right? So 9 months, first womb experience, second womb experience with her mother, another 9, that's 18, and then force and power in potentia, which is God, and we know that God is one. 18 plus 1 equals 19. And that's what blew my mind when I
That's what
did
it
that.
was.
There we go. All praises be
But
to Allah.
that is what threw me off. I'm like, what? How did he even? That is so. It's just mind blowing because it just makes so. It's perfect. It makes perfect sense. It's not like
All
it just makes
praises be
some
to Allah.
sense. Perfect sense because 9 months, 9 months. What were the other months? You said 9 months, 9 months.
There wouldn't be a other month. There would be
Oh
that
yeah,
third layer
yeah.
of darkness. Remember, that's in potentia. And force and power is God, and God is one.
19. Man, Mother Tinetta. Woo! She probably
Praise
knew
be
this.
to
This is
Allah.
probably where you getting that information from. Y'all,
I
yeah.
know it's not coming from
Communicate.
me because I cannot have perfect understanding or perfect knowledge. This is all God. This is all Allah.
That is just proof. Because, like, it's just so much. You just can't speak. You just gotta let it all just soak. Because it's just so much information, man.
I would get migraines when I was first. I would actually get headaches trying to wrap my mind around this when I first like was graced to connect those
Man,
dots.
that is so crazy. Is this a book? Are you talking? I don't think you're talking about it. You're just talking about.
This is just
Maybe it is
coming
a
out
book.
my mouth, but you never know, right?
It is a book. We are all books.
There is a book in the making, actually, so it's interesting that was
So I've
brought up.
heard.
Yes, ma'am.
When it's coming. When it's coming. The end of the year.
Inshallah, that's what I'm going for. But
Oh.
the more information I get, the more the book gets just like bigger and bigger. So I'm trying to keep it not an encyclopedia book.
Look, everything is divine. Everything is in His time,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
you won't keep on adding to it. You're just gonna keep on adding to it unless you get to a point where you're just like, come on now, you've been waiting. You have to do a volume 2 because yeah, that information and the way that you are able to explain it so simple to where a teenager or a small child can understand it is so crucial because man, the way the world is set up now, we really have a lot of work to do. Not even just the women. Well, yeah, the women. You
For
know, the nation can rise
75%
no
of the
higher.
work.
Yeah. Nation can rise no higher than his woman. So, like, it is not until we do something and we make the changes we want to see in the world that the changes will never come because the society reflects us. You know, we don't accept certain behavior from men, then they ain't gonna have a choice but to change themselves and
Right.
live up to the standards that we create for them. And the same thing with the children, because we are producing them.
We're the first teachers.
Yep, we are the first
Right.
doctors, nurses, all of that. Man, this is crazy and this is beautiful because this is a great thing that is budding. And I pray that we're making Master Fard Muhammad proud.
I sure do hope so.
Man, because this is great. And I appreciate you um going against your fears. Well, I don't know if you're still afraid, but I know that you mentioned before that they get a little anxiety getting on camera. because I do.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of public speaking. I took a whole public speaking class to learn as best as I could to speak
Mhm.
publicly. So it's better than what it used to be, but I do not like it.
Yeah.
But the mission is more important than my anxiety. So,
Mm. Mission more important than fears.
yes, ma'am.
I actually, um, well, when I first joined, I didn't really want to be a minister. I was scared. But like a few months in, um, I think it was a real small thought. It wasn't even nothing big. It was just a thought. Because I was just like, man, I would like to be a student minister one day. I ain't never given no, I ain't entertained it or nothing. It was just something that came in there. And then like a few months later, I was asked to join the ministry. I didn't want to do it, but, and it, a really deep part of me really wanted to, but the fears didn't want me to because, that was scary. Um, and then it took me a few months to start doing stuff. But I did realize that the more that I did it, the more comfortable I got at it. I got more comfortable making mistakes. I got more comfortable with slurring words, just speaking the way that I speak, because at the time I didn't really notice. But now that I am where I am now, I always like to reflect on the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, because that man, he was not that good at speaking at all. Like,
He
he
speaks great
spoke,
to me.
I mean, yeah, he did speak, but if we're going back to then, and you're hearing this man trying to say some words compared to what people were probably seeing on TV. I don't know, was TV a thing in the 30s? I don't know.
I
I'm not.
doubt it. Hey, there was
But
radio.
yeah, compared to what a normal person was speaking, or not a normal person, white people, whatever. He was not well spoken in our terms. So I always remember that every time I try to speak, because the little words that he did know, he figured out how to use them and literally changed the entire world and the entire direction of the nation and Black people in America. So,
That's right.
girl, I always just tell myself that.
And he says it, the teachings, he presents them so simple. Like, and I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm glad, right. I'm so glad I'm able to reflect that as well, where I could say what is on my mind in a simple way,
Mm-hmm.
because the simpler it is, first of all, it shows your understanding of it, right? But also,
Yep.
I'm just very grateful about it. And also, especially for Elijah Muhammad, most honorable Elijah Muhammad, he was able to present it so simple, but it's so simple that it could be expanded, right? Like it's simple enough to present the point and broad enough to you could be like, oh, this very specific thing could apply to this.
Mm-hmm. But usually, sometimes that's deceptive intelligence.
That's true.
Um, like I don't remember who said this, but all of his books are made. Everything is made so plain
Very, yeah.
that sometimes we are like, maybe he didn't mean that. Maybe I don't know. Like with How to Eat to Live, he literally tells us. I don't know how many times it is. I should count. But he says nothing is more important than eating one meal a day. It's like you
That's
can't go
right,
two
man.
pages without reading that. And that's it. He said it, I don't know how many times, both books. He just keeps on saying it. And there is no matter what the world trying to come up with, he's supposed to do this, supposed to do that.
It's
He
simple.
tells us, like, I can't tell you, 200 plus times what you're supposed to be doing. But because he's not here telling us, because a lot of us, me included sometimes, are like children and we need to be reminded things every single day. We need to be told, which is not
Yes.
always a good thing. You have to just hear, get information and know it to be true.
Strengthening that will.
Because that's where we really are with the minister too. A lot of people like to mess up what he says or just like misinterpret it or put it in their own words. What they said is what they said. Don't take the vaccine. Don't take
That's
the
it.
vaccine. there ain't no side. No. He said what he said. There ain't nothing more to it.
They're looking for the exception.
Mm-hmm.
The
No,
exception to the rule. There's no.
there ain't none. Everything is. That's one of the things I like about the nation too. Like everything is straightforward. Like we calling it as it is. No, we ain't accepting that. This is exactly what it is, and that's the truth is the truth. And we gonna live and stand on the truth, because that's the only thing you can live and stand on is truth. So
Right. Truth is
yeah.
eternal. It doesn't change, right? Truth is truth. That's it. Like,
That's why I don't argue about. That's why I don't argue with people. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to like teachings and stuff, or Master Muhammad and like Elijah Muhammad, sometimes people on TikTok like to say some real stupid stuff. But I don't care anymore. It bothered me at first for like a few hours, and then I got over it. Because like actions will forever speak louder than words. Like I know that this stuff is working for me and the lives of so many other people. So I'm not gonna just listen to you and succumb to your lack thereof knowledge, because the proof is in the pudding. It's right here.
right.
It's working. I'm the proof.
Right. I'm the proof. If I
Everyone else
hadn't
is the
heard
proof.
certain slanders, I wouldn't have been curious about learning more and be like, what is everyone talking about? Like, what is this?
Exactly. See?
It's the spirit that you receive it in, right?
Everything is divine. Everything is divine. Yeah. So does anyone have any questions for Sister Rosalind? Rosalind. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Rosalind. I am a professional Spanish speaker. If anyone
That's
didn't,
it. Like you could tutor in Spanish now.
I know like 12 and a half words, because I took Spanish 1 and I was like a freshman in high school, and I kind of remember stuff. Um, so yeah, I'm like a professional. Kind of, sort of, not really. But do you have any questions for me, um, Sister Rose? Or anything you
I
want to speak on real quick?
actually was curious to know what was your impression about the previous live I had about South Carolina's and rice plantations and the hydraulic systems. I know you had so many questions.
Let me try to remember. That was last week, Wednesday, right?
Yes, ma'am.
It was amazing, and I had a question for you. I forgot. Well, I think I forgot to reach out to you. What was the name of the? It was Hercules, but what was his last name?
So because they were enslaved, they would take the name of the slave master, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it was Hercules Washington, and I think Hercules might have been quote unquote owned by both Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. So it might come up with either name, Hercules Jefferson, or I'm pretty sure it's Hercules Washington. And the second one was James Hemings.
Hmm.
And for everyone who might not know, they were the first celebrity chefs of the United States. They were enslaved black chefs, one owned by Thomas Jefferson and the other owned by George Washington. And they actually were either the creators or the ones who first started cooking certain meals in the United States that became American staples, like mac and cheese, like French fries.
Mm.
They were clam chowder, so many
Clam
different
chowder. We made that.
all the soups, the stews, like how to the actual technology of a stove, an indoor stove, that was all black chefs.
You know what? What do I want to say? Oh yeah, from your live, that actually changed my mind about a lot of stuff. Like it shifted my mind thinking that they really probably didn't originate anything from this country. Like we probably created and
We
is
made
the
America
villain
great.
behind all of this. Like, are you kidding me? I never even would have guessed that we made mac and cheese, and I mean it makes sense because I don't know what they were eating over wherever they were, but it probably wasn't as well seasoned and good as our food. But that literally it just made me have second thoughts on everything that I'm told, from like school to anyone that says anything is the first, anyone who was the first to do like anything of just anything really.
Anything,
There's nothing to believe
anything.
anymore. We just don't know, and we'll probably never know. And I'm gonna just believe that we did it all, and I don't care. So that's what
Even the
I.
Constitution, like the American Constitution,
Yep.
if we really start thinking about it, it was inspired by the Enlightenment period in Europe. And the Enlightenment period in Europe wouldn't have happened if there weren't Muslims and Moors there prior to that time. So justice, freedom, equality, all of that comes directly from Islam, just repackaged twice by the Europeans and then by the Americans here. I'm just taking ownership of everything. Like
Exactly. Like, and then when you said that the rice plantations and stuff, like I know I actually knew. Well, I kind of had an idea that not all of us was just here picking cotton. We were doing various other things. Um, but you know, media movies try to portray us as just picking cotton. But
which is an insult, really.
cotton, what was it? I can't think of that. Cotton and we probably were
Sugarcane, like
sugar. We did everything though, because they didn't do anything.
at all.
So who else did it?
Right.
I never even thought of that. That is
All of it. Every last thing. Any kind of copyright or trademark or patent numbers that happened by under white people's names, it's probably because they enslaved black people, and then because they owned that person, their ingenuity, their creations ended up going under their name. But there's very few things that they've actually done. But like I really do like the fact that in South Carolina, Louisiana's and Georgia, because it was like a swampy area because of the rice and needed a lot of water.
mm-hmm.
There were mosquitoes, obviously, and white people couldn't handle mosquitoes and the possibility of malaria, so they would go up to the mountains. And there was that separation for that time because the white people were away. They didn't want to catch malaria. Black people were like, okay, well, I'll take care of the plantation because it's my task. I have a strong work ethic. I'm going to do what I got to do. But I'm going to be smart enough to get this job done and then still have half of the day to do what I want to do. So it's very empowering.
We were smart.
Right.
Very intelligent. And I refuse to believe otherwise.
Period.
I didn't know there was mountains in South Carolina though. There's mountains.
I'm on my cell phone, but I could definitely fact check for you. I do know that they would go away from the swamp area to avoid the mosquitoes and malaria. So they go up to a higher altitude where there would be obviously colder, so mosquitoes wouldn't be there. Right, the caucasity, but that's what they would do.
We're geniuses. Are you going live tomorrow? I don't remember if I seen
Yes,
anything.
ma'am. I have to make a new flyer, but I'm going to be I've talked about the mother wound, so I'm going to be talking about the father wound this time with
father wound.
the gasp.
I never thought of that.
Right. Like it goes both ways. And then now that I'm presenting mother and father, I could include the concept of masculinity and femininity and leading and submission and what that looks like, right? And I'm trying to figure out a little bit. I like writing ahead of time, not to read it in my lab because you see I don't really read, but I like having it written. But if you look, for example, the mother's supposed to be more of the emotional realm, right? The father is supposed to be more of the sustaining, maintaining, providing, and leading realm. That's the masculine and feminine principle. And when you look at a sperm in a microscope, it has a head and it has a tail, right? If it didn't have the tail, it wouldn't be able to move. If it didn't have the head, it wouldn't be able to direct itself towards the egg. So it shows, that's one example, like tadpoles and reptiles, they all show this principle of you need the masculine principle, but you also need the feminine principle to move. That's the power. It's motion, energy in motion. That's what gives the power. Um,
You know what? E motion.
Praise be to Allah.
You know what, man? Never mind. I can't. I need pen and paper. But today it's just been long already. Inshallah, I'm gonna be there, and everybody here
Inshallah.
got to be here too. It's 6 o'clock, so that's 5 my time, right?
Yes, ma'am. So 6 o'clock Eastern time, and because your Central time, it would be 5 o'clock on
Okay.
Wednesdays.
Yeah, inshallah, I'm there because I promise you, every time I join, it's just so much information that I never knew. And I love people who are just so smart and are willing to share their information because I just like receiving it because it's fun.
Yeah, learning is fun. Studying
It
is
is.
fun.
I love to learn, like so much. Yes, this is being recorded. I think I'm gonna. It's not gonna be on my Instagram. It'll be on my Instagram for tonight, but I eventually will be putting it on my YouTube channel because
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
what the series is. But we are approaching the hour, and I don't want to take up any more of your time that you may be using to do whatever it is that Rose do during
In the
her Tuesday.
books.
But yeah, if you don't have any more questions, if anyone else doesn't have any questions, we are gonna head out. I have to leave in like, oh wow, now it's 2 minutes. But
Time flies.
do you have anything?
I think that's it for now. But I loved our time together today in this live. I
I
hope
did.
to see more lives from you and more interviews from you.
No, I have to do more. You'll be back,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
I think we're gonna have like a solid topic to go over. I didn't really know what kind of topic. I just wanted to go over the base level stuff today. But we gonna go over a topic because like you're like the teacher and I'm like the student trying to get clarity.
Praise be to Allah.
A great dynamic. So yeah.
We're
Inshallah.
learning together.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you everyone who tuned in today. Again, this is gonna be re-uploaded, inshallah, by tomorrow on my YouTube channel. So if you didn't catch the whole thing, it's all gonna be there. And thanks again, Sister Rose, for allowing me to do this interview
You're
and
very
allowing the people
welcome.
here um your intelligence. Because it's just a,
Allah's intelligence.
yeah.
I'm just very happy to be able to speak on it and share it with everyone.
All praises due to Allah. Well, without further ado, I will be talking to you soon. Um, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.